Well, two state lawmakers are working right now on a bipartisan proposal to abolish capital punishment here in the state of Ohio. Joining us now on 5 on 2, one of those lawmakers, State Representative Niraj Antani. We thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having
5
me.
on 2. Bipartisan proposal on this, a Democrat and a Republican, so you're hoping for support from both sides. Why do you feel this is the way to go?
Sure. Well, I really hope to make the conservative argument of why we need to abolish the death penalty. For me, it comes down to three simple reasons. I'm a small government conservative, and I believe that giving the government the power to execute its citizens is too big of a power to have. About 15 individuals have had their sentences commuted or exonerated in the last 15 years. So that, or about 30 years. So that means 15 innocent individuals were almost executed. And that's a scary place for someone who's a pro-life individual like myself.
The other reasons would be what?
Well, it's because I'm pro-life. I think that in the Republican Party, we're pro-life from conception to natural death. We want to make sure that these innocent lives are protected. And thirdly is the cost. To incarcerate someone for their life costs about $1 million to the taxpayers. But to go through all of the appeals process to the Supreme Court to pay for the drugs, to pay for the execution, costs the taxpayers $3 million. So it's $2 million more that we're wasting on these criminals. Instead, we could be using it to pay cops more, to pay teachers more, to be solving problems in our community.
You mentioned the drugs that are used to execute death penalty criminals here in the state of Ohio currently. Of course, there's been a big issue recently as far as the availability of those drugs and the legality of those drugs. Does that play any role into what you're trying to do?
Yeah, absolutely. About a year ago, there was actually a Preble County man who was executed, and the execution was botched. He was seen gasping for air. It took too long. And after that, they had to find another drug to actually work because the drug they were using, it was cruel and unusual punishment. But however, because of that, all of the pharmacists and the drug makers are refusing to sell these drugs. So actually there is currently a moratorium on the death penalty indefinitely in Ohio until we can get these drugs. And that's another reason we should abolish it. We can't even find a just way to execute these citizens without cruel and unusual punishment.
All right, shifting gears on one last quick question for you. You recently cast a vote regarding the marijuana issue. That's going to be a hot topic, no pun intended, from now till November in Ohio. What's your stance on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the legislature has put a constitutional amendment on the ballot for this November with the intention to block the marijuana monopoly amendment. Regardless of if you're for marijuana legalization or not, the monopoly amendment that's being proposed is a bad deal for all Ohioans. It's 10 grow sites across the state, all owned by 10 rich investors from inside the state and out. So what our resolution does, it says that the voters will then have to approve not only the monopoly, but then also the amendment. So we're still allowing, marijuana can still be legalized down the line, but not in a monopoly fashion.
All right, two very important issues facing Ohio right now. We thank State Rep Niraj Antani for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Talk about today here on 5 on 2.